Hey, it's Carl, and tonight I am building another aquarium, another cube tank. I really like these cubes. So this is a 12-inch cube or 30-centimeter cube, and it holds about 7.5 gallons, which is 28 liters. And the last cube I built, I just used rock, and today I'm going to mostly incorporate wood. I've got kind of some hardscape picked out already, so it's going to be a combination of wood and some beach pebbles that I found. So I'm going to start with some Tropica plant growth substrate. This is a clay and sphagnum base, basically a base layer substrate, fertilizing substrate. So it goes down there, a lot of clay, a lot of minerals and things in that the roots can reach down and get into. So it's going to go on the bottom where it can't be disturbed by water movement. Because it's clay, very fine particles, it'll really stir up and mess up if it gets into the water column. So it's going to be on the very, very bottom. I'm going to cover it up with some of the fluval plant stratum, and then we'll get the hardscape in, and then I'm going to build some layers with the stratum as we go. So we're going to get started with that. First off, the base layer substrate. Don't need a whole lot of this. Just going to kind of get it in from the edges here. Alright. Now for the fluval stratum. Now I'm just going to get my wood in there. So the wood's now situated where I like it. I actually have a little piece sticking out. I wanted to try and grow some moss up on top, sticking out of the water. And yeah, I got a nice group of roots in the front, which will kind of give it some depth, so some stuff up front and all the way to the back. Now I'm going to give it some depth and some height of the substrate. I like to have some different layers, and I want to hide those rocks that are holding down the wood. I'm going to make it quite high at the back here. Just pile in lots of it. Now I just have some of these black rocks. I just picked these up at the beach actually when we were at the beach, and they're just, when they're wet, they're like a shiny black, and I'm going to use them just to kind of hold back the substrate, just so I can keep my higher background and then lower into the front. I might put a little more in the front there, just because I want the depth for the plants to grow into. Some bigger ones underneath here. Some bigger ones underneath here. I think that's going to work out pretty good. I left a little spot here to put some plants in. I'm going to have my ground cover around the front in here, down in there. Then I'm going to grow some taller bush plants and like stem plants in the back. I'd like to glue some moss on. I want to try gluing some moss on. But yeah, I'll probably stick some epiphytes like some anubias or something in these cracks in the rocks. But yeah, we'll start there, see how that goes. So I sprayed down the tank completely. I got everything really wet and a little damp. Not a lot of water, but just kept it wet so it's kind of stick together. And then I'm going to plant the plants really, really deep down in the substrate so that when we fill it up, they won't flow up. And then they will get a really good root system first before they really start to take off. So I have a bunch of different plants. I got a whole bunch of pots here that really need to get in the water. Like, they haven't sold, and with the lockdown we're not likely to sell them anytime soon, so I'm just going to get them in the tank. So there's going to be quite a weird variety of plants in here, some that I've never tried before either, so it's going to be kind of an experimental tank, but a lot of different ground covers. I got Monte Carlo, Marsilicronata, that's another ground cover. So that was that one there. I got some moss I'm going to actually glue to the wood and have it kind of grow up the wood, and then hopefully we'll have some moss sticking at the top here too. Some anubias, that's an epiphyte plant. It's anubias petite, so really small leaves. I'm going to stick it in the cracks and stuff down in the rocks. Hygrophila pinnatifada, something like that. Anyways, these are not doing well, so I want to get them in a tank so they can get growing. Really interesting plant, nice kind of serrated leaves. I really like those. Starogene repens, a nice ground cover, a little higher ground cover, so I might kind of use that as a separation from the front to the back. It can get a little higher. You can trim it down and keep it really low, but I'm going to let it kind of grow mid-size there. I'll have to try this a couple times. Alternanthera reinecii mini. So this is a really red plant, and so that's going to add some color to the one side. And I also have some stem plants that I actually grew here in the store, some rotala. Again, I'm going to put the rotalas at the back because they'll reach nice and high. So yeah, I'm going to get planting now. I'm going to start in the front. I got some Monte Carlo, and again, it's starting to turn a little dark, so I'm just going to rinse this out, and just going to kind of break it into plantable size pieces. So I'm just going to break that pot up into chunks about this size, and I'm going to plant it as deep as I can down into that fluval substrate. So this is Marsilia crenata. I don't have a lot of experience with this one. Actually, I have zero experience with this one. But I think it's kind of the same idea as the Monte Carlo. So I'm going to kind of put it up the sides here. Again, symmetrical is not ideal, but it's going to look a little different anyway. So I'm going to break it in. These I'm going to break into a little bit bigger chunks. Starogene repens, that's the next plant I'm going to plant. I'm going to kind of plant it down in amongst the roots and the stones here. This one's potted, so I'm just going to pull apart that rock wool. Just try not to destroy all the roots. And just slowly pull away all the rock wool. Rinse it all off. Try and get just the roots. There, so I got about 6 plants there, maybe a few more. Big long root system, so I'm going to get them down deep into the substrate there. I have these Hygrophila pinnatifata, which I really like the shape of the leaves. These plants are in awful condition. They're pretty rough looking, and I believe they're not a true epiphyte, but sometimes they're used as an epiphyte, which just means they don't have to be planted in the soil. They'll grow on rocks and adhere to rocks and wood and things like that. I'm going to plant them in the soil, hopefully just to give them a better start, just because they are pretty rough. So I want to tuck them in, kind of in the wood here. And they'll grow a little higher, so they should eventually stick up higher in the wood too. So I'm going to get them down in there. Hopefully they come around. They are looking pretty rough, but I don't think they're that far gone that they won't come around. So tuck it in quite close to the wood there. I grew some of these rotala in the store, and they're a little bit taller already, so I'm just going to unwrap them and I'm going to plant them. I like to do these stem plants as individual stems, and of course they're going to get much taller than a lot of this is going to be, so I'm going to put them actually at the back here. Put 2 or 3 strands together like that. Okay, I'm going to plant these really deep because it's really thick back here, really deep substrate. That'll give them a good chance to grow. Get a good start. Another bunch plant I had some of. These are actually clippings of one that I was growing in one of my plant tanks. This is Pogostemon stellatus. It's gets some kind of reddish brown tips with nice fine leaves on it. Again, another stem plant that gets pretty tall. I'm going to put it right in the middle here, just because it's going to reach up pretty high too. It'll add a little different color. So also in this corner, I'm going to put some of this Alternanthera Renike Mini. So it's a dark red plant. Again, it's going to grow fairly tall, so I'm going to get it in the corner here, and so we'll have some red, we'll have some fine leaf green, some little green tips. Then we'll go down into the pinnatifida with the saber-shaped leaves, some Starogin in the middle with those dark green leaves, and then the ground cover is going to end up being that Crenata and the Monte Carlo. So a lot of different plants in there. So some of these are going to take off and grow like crazy. Some are going to kind of fizzle out. So as this plant grows and fills in, then we'll kind of adjust it as we go. But I just want to get a lot of these plants in the water so I don't waste them. And yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what takes off and what doesn't. So I'm going to get this Alternanthera in the water. Again, you want to wash all this jelly. These cups come with like a fertilization jelly in the bottom there, so I want to kind of rinse all that out. That's what it kind of grows in, but just rinse this plant all off. And again, I'm going to break it into, I've got room for probably 4 or 5 good sized chunks, so I'm going to break it up into 4 or 5 good sized chunks and get them planted. The pot says this will grow about 15 centimeters tall in about a month, and then you'll have to keep trimming it down. But I really like this color, this bright red color. I think it's going to look really good in the tank. So if it fills in the whole back, I'm kind of okay with that too. So well, I got about 8 chunks out of that pot, and I really like that color. It's so bright. So I'm going to get it in. So the last part of this build is I'm going to glue some moss onto the wood. When you're gluing on moss, you have to put it on really thin. So you put your glue on and then put a thin layer of the moss, and hopefully it catches and starts to grow and cover the wood all up. So I'm going to try and grow some up out of the water a little bit. I'm going to put it right at the water's edge and see if I can get it to creep up through, and then just sporadically throw a few little tufts of moss here and there, see which ones take off and which ones don't. So I've just got some of this Ista plant glue. It's like a crazy glue gel basically, but it'll cure underwater and everything. So I'm just going to start a little glob in the center there. Just glue on a little piece of moss. Sticks almost instantly. It's really quick. Maybe a little bit in the Alright, so there's the ground cover. That's the Monte Carlo. We go up, there's some of the Crenata, Starogin repens all in between the rocks there. Got some Pinnatifida with the spade or the saber, or with the serrated type leaves. I did glue on some moss chunks. And then at the back, there's the Alternanthera Renike Mini, the red one. Some Stellata, and then some Rotala in the corner, these stem plants. These stem plants are going to go right up to the top pretty much, so they will add a lot of height. The trick is to fill it really slow. You want to get all that air, or you want the water to kind of filter in through all that gravel so there's no air pockets in there. So you have to dump it in really slow, at least till you get the gravel filled up. Well, there it is. Filter running, CO2, lights, everything's going now. So it's got a lot of growing to do, but I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I put on the little fluval CO2 kit. I have an Ista RGB LED on it. I don't know if it's going to be bright enough. I do have another one, so we could actually put 2 on if I needs to. I'm going to play it by ear for now to see how it goes for a week or 2 first, and then if I have to, I'll add it. So pretty happy with the way this turned out. Really excited to see these different types of plants grow and see which ones do well and which ones don't. I fertilized it already, and yeah, it's ready to go. I'm going to leave the lights on overnight tonight just to kind of hopefully get them started a bit better. And I can't wait to see how these plants grow up and fill in and fill all the little spaces and come up through the wood and the rocks. I think it's going to look awesome. So I'll definitely be doing some update videos on this tank as it grows and fills in and becomes what I'm hoping it's going to look like. So make sure you subscribe so you catch those update videos, and you'll catch all our future builds, which we have a lot in the works right now. So hope you enjoyed that. I hope I'll see you in the next one.